Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Messy Success Podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Henson. This is episode 71, and we are going to be talking about the 5 pillars of community management. In my eyes, as a brand new expert in the community management space. So, a little bit of background here. You guys know I've always kind of been a go-to expert in building community and networking. Well, I decided that I really wanted to next level those skills so that I could work with bigger companies, specifically people who have online courses or memberships. So in January, I threw myself in headfirst into the community management space. And I was working part-time for a very large company as their community manager. I learned so much. I was with them for about 3 months. We did a really big launch together and then continued to go off on my own. And now we are in the process of building a very small community management agency that will hopefully, grow bigger and bigger. But we're starting off very small here at Elizabeth Henson Co. So I'm going to be sharing with you guys what I have put together as the 5 pillars of community management. Now, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, is this going to be helpful for me? Let's just look at it this way. If you have an Instagram account or a free Facebook group and you want to use those platforms to generate more leads or to cultivate some type of community, then yes, you indeed are doing community management already. Maybe you have a course or membership and you have a paid group. This is absolutely for you. And this could be you're a solopreneur and you just want to learn more about community management and what it is, because it's very different than social media management. They're 2 different roles. Now, every team is going to look different, and I'm going to really talk about that. But if you're listening and you want to do a better job with your own community management, maybe you're interested in hiring a community manager, this will be super valuable for you to have conversations in your interview process. And my goal is that if you're listening to this, you're going to learn enough about community management that you could even go and apply to be a community manager, assuming you love people, because that is a huge part of it. So let's go ahead and get started. But I did want to, of course, extend my gratitude that you are here listening to this episode. I am so incredibly grateful to have you as a part of my community or network, whatever that looks like. You guys are awesome and amazing, and I really, really appreciate you. All right, here we go. We're going to be talking about the 5 pillars of community management. You guys, I have had so many amazing conversations with business owners, big, small, solopreneurs, really trying to put together, some really good information to help you guys. And like I said, this is all information that I have put together based on my role as a community manager, based on building out this dream community management agency over here in my business, and just continuing to have conversations with business owners who in some way, shape, or form have communities just like you. I think one of the biggest needs that I'm seeing in the industry is people who have free groups like a Facebook group or an Instagram following, and they're wanting to use that group to leverage more business, more leads, more word of mouth referrals, whatever that looks like. So while we're talking about these 5 pillars, it's really going to help get your brain going from a business standpoint. Like, you guys know I usually come and I'm talking about the heart and the feels of everything and the environment and the culture, which is pillar number 1. But you guys know that I'm here always talking about how to create spaces where people feel seen and heard. And that is absolutely, if you asked me, the most important piece of community management is creating environments where people feel seen, heard, and important, and they want to be there. And I just did a survey inside my paid community, and that was hands down an important piece, is that people wanted to feel comfortable and safe and like they are freaking valuable, right? What makes you want to walk into a room or a space? right? Really reflecting on that feeling. How can we recreate that in your business? And that's why pillar number 1 is hands down creating an environment and a culture from the inside out. So, one of the things that I see that can go wrong in the community management space is when the culture and environment on the outside isn't necessarily represented on the inside of the team. So, if you're doing an amazing job taking care of your customers and your clients, you should also be doing an amazing job taking care of your team. Everyone on your team should also exude these core values of knowing how to make other humans feel seen and feel heard. Now, of course, I'm biased because I am such a community person. Like, I'm like a hospitality queen. I want everybody to feel good, right? But if you can do that within your team and create that team culture where everyone is operating from their highest good, everyone is excited to be at work, and everyone feels like they are valuable, then it will be even easier to recreate that on the outside. Now, if you're a solopreneur, then we're just talking about your community. How can you make a space where people feel seen, heard, and valuable? And I know you're like, I'm already doing that. I'm just doing that. I'm sharing. But are you sharing about you, or are you making your content and your information to really serve them, right? And a big piece of this is that mindset piece of, having an abundant mindset, truly wanting the person next to you to succeed, right? Like all those competitive thoughts, the limited beliefs, that is all part of your culture as the ambassador, the leader of your community. So pillar number 1, without going too incredibly deep, because if you've been here a while, I just talk about, building community all the time, but that is hands down pillar number 1 is creating that environment, that culture. And one of my favorite ways to explain this when I'm meeting with a client or a potential client is, have you ever been to an event or a party or a conference, anything where you walked into the room and you could just feel the energy and you were like, this is amazing. This is bigger than me, right? I'm a part of something awesome just by being here. And at the same time, you knew that you mattered. Like you knew that your presence here mattered and that your voice was going to be heard. Like we've all been in those scenarios at some point in our life. And that's what we want to create for your business, right? Is that your Facebook group, your Instagram account, your paid course group, whatever it is, you want that to be the first place, at least top 5 sites, places, spaces that your members or students are logging into in the morning. And if you can get your space on their top 5 places that they're going every single morning, then you've done an amazing job. So how can we make that our priority, right? Okay, so pillar number 2 is what I call a scorecard. Now, this is going to look so different for every business, but what I really learned about community management, which is not the most sexy part, is that we have to find different ways to measure the success of our community so that we can continue to improve it. And a scorecard is going to look incredibly different, but I'm going to give you some examples of things that you can measure, right? We can measure engagement, of course, like how many likes and comments we're getting. But I also like to be very clear that engagement does not always mean happy, and lack of engagement does not always mean unhappy. So we don't want to use that to measure the happiness or the satisfaction of the members, but it is important just to know, like, are they hanging out here? Is this like, member to member engagement, or is it all like facilitator to member engagement? So that might be something that goes on that scorecard. Now, when I say scorecard, you can be collecting this information on a weekly basis, a monthly basis. Again, it's whatever works for you and your business. Another piece of important information for the scorecard is going to be to track leads of some type, right? Like, are these community members turning into customers, right? How can we track that? It might look like opt-ins. It might look like people in the group inquiring to work with you. Again, it's going to look different in every business, but how are you tracking, where your leads are coming from within your community, or if they're even coming from within your community? And are you keeping track of that, right? Like, are they finding you on Instagram? Are they finding you on Facebook? All of these things are important pieces to building your community, is to knowing where they're coming from. So we have engagement, we have leads. Another thing that you can track is reviews and or social proof, right? Inside your group, you can be posting content that really generates great reviews and testimonials. Are you collecting those? Those are great things to be putting on your scorecards. Are people unhappy? What is the actual heartbeat of the community, and how can you measure that? So reviews are important as well. And that can look like, capturing things they're saying in real time. It can look like surveys. Again, so many different ways to measure and collect those. And then, of course, sales, right? How many actual sales or conversions are we getting from that community? And the scorecard is important because we have to start somewhere. So even if you start with a scorecard at 0, and then, 2 weeks later, you get your first sale from your group, you have something to put on your scorecard. So you want to know, was that lead a part of the group? What prompted them to be ready to work with you? How can we just track those things, as accurately as possible to create some type of data that we can look at over time so that we can really see our improvement? So just ideas of things you can put on a scorecard: your engagement, your leads, your reviews, and your sales. But your scorecard might be different. I know a lot of my scorecards are really measuring, what members are saying, like writing down new content ideas. What are they asking for? Common questions. And then, of course, leads, reviews, and sales, but are they happy? Are we kind of using a happiness meter of some kind other than just engagement? So that's number 2, is the scorecard. Number 3 in itself is really having important conversations around engagement. Who is engaging in your community as far as admins, moderators? Just you. If you're a solopreneur, that's totally fine. What is their responsibility? What is their role? Let's get super clear on that. And I will say something that I'm really passionate about from where I stand with community management. If you have a team, rather than Team Elizabeth Admin 1, Team Elizabeth Admin 2, right? Like these faceless moderators do not tend to perform as well and build trust as well as actual human beings. And I've really just paid attention. I've done a lot of market research. I've asked a lot of community members. I've asked a lot of business owners. And one of my favorite clients that I'm working with now, when I asked him this question, are you cool with me being me in the group? He's like, yeah, anything different is like a scarcity mindset. And I was like, yes, these are my people. And that's not coming from a place of it's right or wrong, but I just want you to really ask yourself, if I'm bringing in a community manager and I want them to ghostwrite for me so that the students think that it's always me, why, or what's the reason behind that versus allowing them to just be an actual human who's on the team? Because it's very difficult to pull that off if you have a lot of students who know you really well, and it just deletes an ability to connect on a personal level, right? Your community manager is going to love people. That is hands down one of the most important pieces of the role, is that they are very comfortable in customer service. Think of all the amazing humans that work for Chick-fil-A and how pleasant they are, right? That is a quality that you want in a community manager, that they truly think every human is important. And they're going to want to have real conversations and nurture those relationships. And it's just really difficult to do that when you're pretending to be somebody else. And they're going to leverage their own personality in different ways. And I think really comfortable and confident leaders, they get that. And they get that if they can perform as themselves, the best version of themselves, we as a team are going to see better results. Again, just my opinion. There's plenty of spaces that do it the other way, and it's perfectly successful. It's just, what do you want in your group? What kind of space do you want to cultivate? And I know I always want to cultivate a space of transparency, a place of trust, a place of vulnerability where we're not afraid of mistakes. Like, it's fine if I make a spelling error, I'll own up to it. Like, just really being very, very human. That's a core value of mine. So that's the place that I'm going to speak from. But, if you're like the admin 1, admin 2 type of person, that's fine, right? Just do what works for you and do it with that full confidence. And just make sure that it's not coming from a scarcity mindset of like, I don't want to shine the light on this person on my team. I always want the light shined on me. Make sure it's not coming from that place. So with engagement, that being said, is just being super clear on who is doing what, right? Who is actually going to keep the conversations going with those community members. And another important conversation to have is, what is the overarching goal? Do you want to keep conversations going as long as possible? So you might have, a conversation thread with 20 some responses between the same 2 people. Or are you wanting to just give them what they want and like end that thread, right? Like, and there's no right or wrong here, but there's just definitely, people tend to want one or the other, right? Like, oh, well, if we keep conversating, they're going to keep expecting long conversations. And that's true. But which one do you want? Do you want to cultivate a space that, has ongoing conversations, or do you want to cultivate a space that just gives them what they need so that they can go off and implement or whatever that might be? And I believe that we should always keep conversations going in a way that fosters leadership, right? That fosters these members to find solutions on their own. Like, we are their guide. We're not the teacher that gives the answers. We're guiding them to intuitively figure out what it is that they really want. Because even if we give answers, what works for us may not work for them. And of course, there's a time and a place to just give answers or advice. But I always feel like if we can ask them the right questions instead of just prompting answers, then they are going to be more successful in the long run. And we're doing them more service. We're helping them more by guiding them to figure out what it is that they truly want. Now, this is going to look very different because there's so many different kinds of communities. And if you have a community around a product, you may not need to keep conversations going. Like, it just might not be necessary. So again, it really comes down to like, what is your overarching mission for the community? What is that culture? What kind of relationships do you want these people to be building with each other? And within that engagement pillar that I'm talking about, the member to member versus the member to facilitator, the teacher, like I'm talking about too. I like to see groups that have a lot of member to member engagement, because that means that they are doing this on their own, that they're cultivating this community on their own because of the environment that you have staged. And to me, that screams success. But those are the types of communities that I build. So that might not be what you want, and that's totally fine. But these are all just super important little pieces of community management that will help you have conversations around this role, whether you're interviewing for, whether you're interviewing to become. Every little piece that I'm talking about, figuring out where you stand, is your core values or what you're cool with, is going to help you have those conversations. Okay. So that's kind of the bird's eye view of engagement. That's, can be, all of these 5 pillars can be a much deeper conversation. But the 4th pillar is content. So there are content strategists out there. There are copywriters out there. And what I found in my research, now, of course, this suits me as a human, but what I found in my research was that typically the community manager is a different personality type than the content generator, scheduler, etc. So in a Facebook community, it might be a different person that is creating the content and scheduling the content, if you operate that way, than the community manager that is coming in to engage, foster, really make sure that every member is taken care of. Because those are actually 2 slightly different brain types. Now you're going to have magical unicorns that can do both, right? I'm sure that they're out there. But I really lean to the side of leadership and where I am as a community manager, and customer service, client experience, really just wanting to be that voice for the students, for the members, be that bridge for the students, for the members. And the content is a different ballgame. However, because community managers are advocates for those members and students, they're going to be able to speak to that content in a very important way. They're going to be able to let the team, the solopreneur, whatever it might be, that's generating the content, know what the students need, what the members want, what they're looking for, what questions they're asking, what they're loving. They're going to be able to speak to all of those different things. So they could play a very important role in the content generation. So, what working with my company kind of looks like, we sit in on content meetings and we can say things like, engagement's really low. We need some really short, actionable questions for our members. We need to get to know our members better. We need to ask them questions like X, Y, and Z. What kind of coffee do they drink, right? whatever it might be, the community manager is going to be able to speak to that very, very well and very importantly. But that doesn't mean that they should be the ones writing the content from start to finish, right? It's like that big strategy piece and then the implementation piece. And those can be separate or they can be together, but both are very important. So your content is going to kind of be, the backbone for your community, but it's not the only thing that's going to make it successful, right? And I think that's a huge misconception, that if a community lacks engagement, that they need more content, and that's not true. My Facebook group for my paid community, Shine Light Society, has almost no content because we meet every Monday in person. So I really scaled back on the content so that they didn't really feel this pressure to do or be or show up or have overwhelm. The number one reason people leave a community, a membership, a group is because of overwhelm. So too much content can actually be counterproductive. We want to have just the right amount of content that is quick and easy to navigate and gives them what they need, versus, oh, they've been quiet, let's throw them more content, right? And think about when you're scrolling, what's easier to answer? Like, are you a morning person or a night owl, right? You could answer that in a split second without thinking. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? You could answer that so quickly. Versus, tell me about your favorite memory when you were 13 years old that made you who you are today. Like, you're really going to have to sit back and think about that, right? And then you're going to be like, I don't really have time to answer that right now. I'll come back to that later. And then, of course, you don't. So we need to have a really good idea of, what kind of things are our members participating in. And quick and easy to digest content is a great way to boost engagement and get to know your members without overwhelming them. And those are really great conversations that a community manager can help you with. Okay, so that was the content piece. The final pillar is also a big one that we're going to keep bird's eye view here is strategy. And that is going to come into play when you're really clear on your goals. What are your goals for the group? You're going to need a strategy that's repeatable for getting new members into the group, whether it's paid, free, whatever it is you're working with. Sorry about the vacuuming in the background. So you'll need a strategy for getting in new members. Maybe you want to bring in affiliates or ambassadors. That's going to require a strategy that's repeatable that your community manager can help with. Anything that kind of requires attracting people to your community or building communities within the communities. So if you have a large community and then you have affiliates inside that community, moderators, admins, coaches, accountability groups, any of those things are a type of strategy that you will be using inside your community. So strategy is a really big piece of the community management. Thank you, Gracie. Sorry, my daughter just walked in. Want to say hi real quick?
Hello.
Okay, we're almost done. She just brought me a beautiful picture of a frog. So the strategy piece, anything that is going to be repeatable or really leading into your scorecard in some way. Gosh, here we go. Great day to record, right? Thank you guys so much for being here for all of that. You guys know messy success here, so I'm not even going to edit out the vacuuming. Hopefully you can hear me. So strategy is pillar number 5. Your community manager is going to play a huge piece in the strategy that is going to intertwine, with the scorecard or whatever that might be. But the strategy is going to be different and it's going to depend on your goals. And we always have to have some type of goal for the community, whether it's just getting more ideal clients into the group. Maybe you have a great group and you just want to see the engagement go up. Maybe you're really focused on getting the organic leads from your group. But knowing those goals will help with that strategy piece. And, it could be a certain project. Maybe you're doing a campaign. Maybe it's a launch-based strategy, but your community manager will be intertwined in all of those things because they are going to be able to represent the heartbeat of your group better than anyone else. And if you're the solopreneur, then that is one of the hats that you will wear, is being very in tune with your group, the culture, the environment, all of those things. And to wrap all of those up, I'll just say some of the pain points that I hear are people are nobody's showing up to my meetings and nobody's engaging with my posts, and gosh, I just want them to get to the other side and to see success. And, those are all kind of tonal mindset issues that mean that we're making it about us, right? And if your community is not showing up for you, then they probably don't feel seen, safe, heard, important, valued enough for that space to be in their top 5. Right? If that space was in their top 5, they would be in there finding ways to engage. So we always have to put that mirror up. And if your community is not doing what you want them to do, it's all stemming from you as the leader. And that's where you want to go back to number 1. Are you painting a picture of the environment and the culture that you want to represent? Because a lot of times we get busy and we're just throwing content in, out on our social media, in our groups. And we're just throwing the content out, but we're forgetting to actually treat other people the way we want them to treat us, right? To support other people the way we want them to turn around and support us. If you want more reviews on your podcast, go leave some friends reviews. If you want more engagement in your social media, go engage with others. Be the model for what it is that you want in return, because that's the best way that the people who are watching you are going to learn how to serve you. So I'll leave you with that. And that all goes back to that environment and culture piece, and all goes back to the leadership skills. At the end of the day, community management is just where I landed in teaching people how to network, how to build stronger communities, but most importantly, how to be better leaders and make the world a better place, because I know that's why we're all here, right? And to be vulnerable, to be imperfect. And the more vulnerable and imperfect you are, the more those community members are going to trust you. There we go. My computer just went black all of a sudden, but it's good. We're still here. So the more vulnerable and open you are, the more you're able to receive, the more you're able to shine the light on other people, the more it's going to attract them to you, which of course are all core values of everything that I'm about. But I'm really excited to be learning the non-sexy pieces, like I mentioned, so that I can bring it all together and really, really help these companies. The feels and the culture and the environment is great, but we have to also be able to measure things in order to be able to improve. So just to recap the 5 pillars: environment and culture is number 1. Creating a scorecard to measure your success is number 2. Having conversations about engagement, who's going to engage, how they're going to engage, is number 3. Number 4 is your content, right? Who's responsible for the content? Who's responsible for the engagement? The community manager is going to be the bridge to helping with what the students' members want to the content generator. And then number 5 is the strategy piece. What is your repeatable process for getting in new members? Do you want affiliates? Do you want ambassadors? Do you want coaches, assistants, groups within the group, whatever that looks like? Strategy could be so many different things: email marketing, social media marketing, right? That all falls under that strategy umbrella. But your community manager should be part of those conversations because they are going to represent your people the best. All right. That was a lot. I did not expect that to just take up 30 minutes talking about that. I really wanted to just touch on them from, the outside looking in. I hope that this was helpful. Please let me know. Now, if you guys listen to this multiple times, you can go have really great conversations about community management. So thank you guys so much for being here, for being part of my messy success. I'm so grateful. Leave us a review. Come visit me on Instagram, all the things. You guys are awesome, and I love you, and I'll see you soon.